Welcome back once again to Dead Malls. Continuing our journey through central Illinois brings us to the Hickory Point Mall in Forsyth, Illinois. So this mall, while definitely not a bland, boring, Simonized mall, it's also not the retro neon king of the past with all the neon lights, but it does hide some pretty cool aesthetics inside, especially when we get to that center court and the amazing fountain they have. And that's mainly the reason why I made the 5-hour drive out to this mall, because I just wanted to see that awesome center court fountain and some of the architecture in this mall that I'd seen in pictures. So while this mall is in Forsyth, Illinois, it really serves as Decatur, Illinois' main shopping destination. Now, there are plenty of old photos and videos on this place, so make sure to watch through till the end because I'm going to insert them throughout the video. Also, how often do you see a sign like this actually advertising for people to come walk inside the mall? I haven't seen a sign like that in a long time. So my first impression of this mall when I walked in was, gee, it's kind of bland and boring, white and minimalist, until you kind of stop and stare at the architecture, and then you realize that no, it's got some really unique architecture, it's just kind of hidden and masked by all the white, the stark white throughout. And I know there's some color in the storefronts, but the mall itself is mainly just white. And that strip of carpet down the center, oh, you know how much I hate carpet in public spaces. Nasty. But it was cool to see one of those off-the-wall stores, because you don't see too many of those anymore. So enough of me just blabbering on about my thoughts on this mall. We should actually get into its history. The history of this mall would start out quite rocky. In the early 1970s, the city of Decatur, Illinois would propose a mall to be built, but the merchants that were in downtown didn't really like this idea because they wanted to keep all of their businesses in downtown. So, in July of 1974, a vote would be held and the mall would be rejected by one vote. Since the people of Decatur, Illinois had spoken and clearly didn't want this mall to be built within the city limits, the developers decided to build in nearby Forsyth, a village that was just north of Decatur, and it would open in 1978. The original anchors would consist of J.C. Penney, Bergner's, and a Carson Pirie Scott, also known as Carson's. Now, these were all department stores that were located in downtown Decatur and would relocate to the mall. And boy, that would have been cool to see a town of this size have that many department stores in their downtown. Wow. Kohl's would join the mall as the fourth anchor in 1983, later expanding its size in 2003. In 1998, the Sears, which still was located in downtown Decatur, would finally cave in and move to the mall along with an MC Sports. And exactly 1 year after this, Gap would announce plans to open Gap, Gap Kids, and an Old Navy store at the mall. And I don't recall seeing any of those stores when I visited this mall. Maybe the Old Navy, but I don't know. I'm sure watching this video again would refresh my mind. The year 2000 would mark the mall's very first interior renovation since its opening day. So when they said renovate the place, not quite sure what they meant by that, because this all still looks fairly original. I guess maybe, changing the paint scheme, making it more bland looking, freshening up the flooring, that kind of stuff, but it still all looks kind of dated. I suppose there's only so much you can change in this mall without changing the physical structure of the building itself. In 2005, CBL and Associate Properties would buy the mall, and things would begin to go downhill drastically. 2007 would see Steve & Barry's open, only to close about a year later. By 2010, the mall would see the closure of the Old Navy store being replaced by a Kohan Furniture later that same year. It's quite shocking that this late in the mall's life, we're actually seeing some new stores being added to the mall, because later in 2010, a shoe department Encore store would open in the mall. This brings us to one of the coolest pieces of history that I found on this mall, and I didn't even know this when I went to the mall, but apparently the movie Informant, several scenes were filmed from that movie in 2009 at this mall. That's awesome. I'm going to have to dig up that movie and try and find some of the scenes. Maybe I can insert them in here without getting a YouTube copyright strike from the copyright police. 2014 would see the departure of the J.C. Penney, followed by Sears later that year. And as time marched on closer to present day, things just came and went left and right. We lost department store after department store. We gained Ross Dress for Less. We gained TJ Maxx, Hobby Lobby. I think the only department store left here actually is the Von Maur, which is quite shocking because that's a pretty upscale store for an area like Decatur, Illinois. I don't know their demographics off the top of my head, but I'd have to say it's a small town, so can it really support a high-end retailer like that? I don't know, maybe it can. But I will say the Von Maur was definitely a trip back in time, like straight back to the 1980s when everything was just class, like that super 80s class. So let's head inside the Von Maur and take a look at the place. It looked like they were renovating it because their sign was not on the outside of the store and they had a lot of like construction tarps set up and everything. I've also never seen a Von Maur with just a plaque like that. That was kind of strange. So I found some old footage and I wanted to share it with you. This looks like it's a classic car show that they're having here at the mall, which is kind of strange. Sorry for the poor quality, but obviously this is from 1992 on an old, VHS camcorder or something similar. And then we're going to take a look at what I believe is a high school performance at the center of the mall where the fountain is. Unfortunately, I had to mute the following clip due to YouTube's ridiculous copyright restrictions. If you'd like to hear the audio, it'll be in the Raw and Real edition over on my membership channels. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode here from the Hickory Point Mall in Forsyth, Illinois. If you like this kind of content, there's much more over on my Patreon or my YouTube channel membership. There's links on screen and in the description box below. And if you'd like to hear the amazing fountains, you can check out the Raw and Real edition. They'll be over on either of my memberships in the coming weeks. As always, thank you to all of my members who support this content. It really means so much to me for all of your support. And to all the rest of you, thank you for your support as well. I will see you on another episode of the Urbex Dead Mall series.